Hello and welcome back to Koko Sleep, a podcast of original children's bedtime stories and meditations designed to make bedtime a dream. Tonight's story is one for all you cat lovers out there. If you've listened over and over to Cats in Dreamland or Minnie the Magical Cat and you're desperately seeking more tales of feline frolics, then I think you're going to really love this one. Before we get started, make sure your curtains are closed and your room is nice and dark. Or if you need a light, make sure it's just a gentle night light. Climb under your covers and in your bed stretch your body out long. Point your toes, splay your fingers, stretch, and then sigh and relax your whole body. Get yourself as comfortable as you can and softly lower your eyelids or close your eyes completely. It's time now to meet your new friend, little Nutmeg. Nutmeg is a kitten, and today is her first day at Kitten Kindergarten. Do you remember your first day at playgroup or school? Well, Nutmeg is a little bit worried that she won't like it. Her mother says she'll have a wonderful time, and she's certain Nutmeg will easily make some new friends. Happily, Nutmeg's mother is right about that, and Nutmeg does make a lot of new friends. Let's join her now and hear about the fun she has on her first day at kindergarten. This is Kitten Kindergarten by Gillian Rogerson. It was the first day at Kitten Kindergarten for a little kitten called Nutmeg, and she wasn't sure how she felt about it. She was excited about going, but a little nervous too. Nutmeg was unusually quiet as she walked towards Kitten Kindergarten with her mother. As they got closer to the colourful building, the smallest of sighs escaped from Nutmeg, and her steps slowed a little. Her mother knew something was troubling Nutmeg, so she stopped walking and bent down so that she was the same height as her. Mum smiled gently at Nutmeg and asked what was on her mind. Nutmeg looked down at her feet and shuffled from one foot to the other. She mumbled, "What if I don't like kindergarten? What if I don't make any friends? Can I come home if I don't like it?" Her mum softly stroked Nutmeg's little face and said, "Your teacher has told me I can stay with you on your first day for as long as you want me there. And if you feel worried about anything, you can let me know what it is, and we'll talk about it. As for making friends, you are one of the friendliest kittens I know, and you always make friends easily. And why wouldn't anyone want to be your friend? You're utterly amazing and funny and kind and great fun to be around." Nutmeg smiled and looked up from the ground. "You have to say that. You're my mum." Her smile faded. "But what if I don't make any friends at kindergarten? No friends at all? What if no one talks to me or smiles at me?" Her mum said, "You don't have to wait for someone to make friends with you. Be a friend to them first. Everyone needs friends." She kissed the tip of Nutmeg's nose and straightened up. They carried on walking along the street, holding paws. Nutmeg asked her mum what she was going to do whilst Nutmeg was in kindergarten. "I'm going shopping for food," her mum replied. "I'm going to make something really special for dinner to celebrate your first day at kindergarten. I can't believe how quickly this day has come around. You've grown up so quickly." Nutmeg lifted her chin. She did feel very grown up. Perhaps kindergarten wouldn't be that bad after all. But just in case it wasn't that good, Nutmeg said, "Mum, I will go today, but if I don't like it, I'm not going back tomorrow." Her mother's whiskers twitched, and she gave Nutmeg a solemn nod. They reached the gates of Kitten Kindergarten and went through them. They walked along a winding path that was made out of numbers, and then through the outdoor play area. Nutmeg saw lots of fun toys to play with, including tricycles and cars. There were also slides and swings, seesaws and trampolines. Nutmeg asked her mum if she'd be able to play with the toys. Her mum nodded. Nutmeg's little amber eyes widened in surprise. Bubbles of happiness popped in her tummy, and she broke into a happy skip. They reached the entrance door of the building, which was painted in a jolly sunshine yellow. Standing there was a tall black and white cat wearing spectacles. His kind eyes crinkled up at the corners as he smiled at Nutmeg and her mother. "Hello there," he said. "Welcome to Kitten Kindergarten. I'm the head teacher, Mr. Tiddles. You must be Nutmeg. I've been looking forward to meeting you. Do come in." Nutmeg gave him a shy smile and went inside the building, still holding paws with her mum. They followed Mr. Tiddles along a hallway, and Nutmeg noticed the walls were full of bright pictures that the kittens at kindergarten had made. Seeing the beautiful pictures made Nutmeg smile. Maybe one of her pictures would go on the wall soon. If she stayed long enough, that was. She hadn't made up her mind yet. Mr. Tiddles took them into the classroom. Nutmeg stared and stared at the room. She had never seen anything like it before, and never anything so colourful. There were some activity tables on one side of the room, and on them were games, puzzles, crayons and paper, and some dolls' houses and castles too. On the other side of the room, Nutmeg saw bright green bookshelves full of picture books. Next to the bookshelves were tubs of toys and even more books. Around the room were pop-up tents, castles, and long tunnels. There were lots of kittens in the classroom, most of them absorbed in one activity or the other. The kittens were having a great time, and Nutmeg heard lots of cheerful chatter and joyful laughter coming from all directions. Mr. Tiddles told Nutmeg and her mum to try some of the activities at the tables. He would be gathering the kittens together later for carpet time, but Nutmeg had plenty of time to play until he did that. He pointed to a large carpet at the front of the room and said when it was time to gather together, she could sit anywhere she liked on it. Nutmeg asked if her mum could sit on the carpet with her too. Mr. Tiddles smiled kindly and told Nutmeg her mum could stay all day if that's what Nutmeg wanted. He gave them a little wave and walked over to the bookshelves. He picked up a book, sat down, and began to read to a couple of snowy white kittens in front of him. "What do you want to do first?" Nutmeg's mum asked. "I don't know," Nutmeg replied. There was so much to do, and it was difficult to make a choice. Two ginger cats sitting at a nearby table waved their paws at Nutmeg and called out cheery hellos. One of them said, "Would you like to sit with us? We're colouring in. There's lots of room at this table." Nutmeg nodded and walked over to the table, her mother right at her side. She sat down. Her mum sat next to her. Nutmeg shyly gave her name. The ginger cats grinned at Nutmeg. They said their names were Mog and Milo, and they were twins. Nutmeg blinked. They looked exactly the same, and she had a feeling she wouldn't remember which one was which. Milo pointed to a freckle on his nose and said, "This is the only thing that's different between us. So, if you're not sure if I'm Mog or Milo, Just stare at my nose and then you'll know it's me, Milo. He chuckled. His brother did too. So did Nutmeg. Milo pushed some pieces of paper towards Nutmeg and said she should colour them in. Nutmeg looked at the pictures on the paper. There were dragons flying through the air, ships on the ocean waves, and unicorns running across fields, and lots more too. Nutmeg chose a dragon picture and began to colour it. She hummed happily. Milo and Mog smiled at her, and they hummed too. A black kitten with white paws twirled over to them, her little arms stretched out to the sides. She smiled at Nutmeg and said, "Hi, I'm Donna. Can you dance? I love dancing. Ooh, I like your colouring in. You're very good. Can I join you at the table, please?" "Of course," Nutmeg said. "You're very good at dancing. I like how you twirled around just then." "Thanks," Donna said with a big smile. She sat on the other side of Nutmeg. "I think I'll colour in a dragon picture too. What's your name?" Nutmeg told her, and Donna said that was a lovely name. The kittens at the table carried on colouring in. Donna and Nutmeg chatted happily about this and that, and Mog and Milo joined in. Her new friends were very funny and made Nutmeg giggle. When she'd finished the dragon picture, Nutmeg looked at her mum and whispered, "You can go now, Mum. I'll be okay." "Are you sure?" her mum whispered back. Nutmeg nodded. "Will you be okay without me, Mum?" Her mum nodded and said she would keep herself busy, and when she came back later, Nutmeg could tell her all about her day. Nutmeg and her mother said goodbye and smiled at each other. Her mother waved to Mr. Tiddles as she left the classroom. Nutmeg carried on chatting with the other kittens, but as she did so, she noticed a golden brown kitten sitting on a cushion in the corner. He was on his own and cuddling a blanket. Nutmeg waved to the kitten, and he gave her a small wave back. Donna said, "That's Casey. He's very shy. He likes coming here, but he hardly ever leaves that cushion, and he always carries his comfort blanket with him. I keep asking him to join in with us, but he always says no." Nutmeg smiled at Casey and gave him another wave. He waved back and gave her the smallest of smiles. Nutmeg pulled a blank piece of paper towards herself and told the kittens about a game she played with her mum sometimes. She explained, "I'll start by drawing a square on this paper. Then I'll pass the paper to someone and they can draw something else on the square. You can make it into a house or a car or a space rocket or anything you want to. And nobody knows what the picture's going to look like when it's finished." She drew a square and passed the paper to Milo. He added a roof, a chimney, and windows and made it into a house. Milo passed the paper to his brother, and Mog put a door on the house and added a garden with lots of flowers. When it was Donna's turn, she drew herself dancing across the grass. She added Nutmeg, Milo, and Mog too, and gave them great big smiles. The kittens giggled at the finished picture and thought it was the best one they had ever made. Donna said she was going to ask Mr. Tiddles if he would put it on the wall. She ran off with the paper. Milo and Mog said they were going to play with the building blocks and asked Nutmeg to join them. Nutmeg said no thank you because she wanted to draw some rainbows. She picked up another piece of blank paper and began to draw a big rainbow on it. When it was time to colour in the rainbow, Nutmeg frowned. She had forgotten what the colours were in a rainbow. She looked around the room, hoping someone could help her. Everyone seemed very busy. Everyone except one kitten, who was still sitting on his cushion in the corner, Casey. Maybe he could help her. She walked over to Casey and gave him the biggest smile ever. "Hi, I'm Nutmeg. Do you know what the colours of the rainbow are?" Casey nodded. "Great," Nutmeg said, "because I've drawn a rainbow and forgotten what colours to use. Could you tell me what they are, please?" "Of course. I love rainbows. I draw them all the time." "Me too, and I don't know why I've forgotten all the colours," Nutmeg said with a little giggle. "Do you want to see my rainbow? You could help me colour it in if you like." Casey didn't look too sure. "I don't want to leave my cushion." Nutmeg nodded. "It is a lovely cushion. You don't have to help me colour in, only if you want to. And if you do want to, you could bring your cushion over to the table and put it on the chair. Then you would still be sitting on it." She gave him another bright smile. Casey smiled back. "I do want to help you." He took his cushion and his comfort blanket over to the colouring-in table. He put the cushion on a chair and sat on it. He placed the blanket over his knees. Nutmeg sat next to Casey and showed him her picture. He was very impressed and said it was a great rainbow. He told her what colours to use, and together Nutmeg and Casey started to colour the rainbow. Nutmeg chatted happily about this and that. Casey listened, and after a while, he joined in with her happy chatter. They talked about their favourite colour, their favourite food, and their favourite cartoons. They liked all the same things. Nutmeg and Casey finished colouring the rainbow, and Casey asked if he could draw the next one. Nutmeg said of course, and when she saw the finished rainbow, she said it was amazing. They coloured in that one too and carried on talking and laughing. Nutmeg said it would be great if their rainbow pictures could be put on the wall, but she was too shy to ask Mr. Tiddles. Casey smiled at his new friend and said he would ask, and could Nutmeg look after his blanket while he did that? Nutmeg said she would. Casey put it carefully on her lap. Casey took the two pictures over to Mr. Tiddles. Nutmeg watched them talking. Mr. Tiddles nodded at Casey and took the pictures from him. Casey skipped back to Nutmeg and said their rainbow pictures were going on the wall straight away. Nutmeg thanked Casey and gave him his blanket back. She looked around the room and said, "What shall we do now?" "It's nearly time to sit on the big carpet," Casey replied. "We can have a snack now too. Come with me and I'll show you what to do." He cuddled the blanket in his arms but left the cushion where it was. Casey took Nutmeg over to the snack area. They decided to have fruit and water and took the items over to the big carpet. Mr. Tiddles was sitting on a big chair at the front of the carpet with a book on his knee. When all the kittens were seated with their snacks, he opened the book and began to read a story. Casey and Nutmeg ate their fruit and listened to the lovely story. Casey finished his fruit first and opened out his comfort blanket. He carefully placed it over his legs, and Nutmeg's too. Nutmeg smiled at him. Mr. Tiddles finished the story. He asked the kittens how their day was going. Lots of furry arms shot up in the air, and paws waved energetically at the teacher, hoping to be picked. Mr. Tiddles asked each kitten on the carpet what they had been doing that day and listened carefully to their replies. When he asked Casey what he'd been doing, the kitten said, "I've been colouring in with Nutmeg, and I've had a great time. A really great time." Nutmeg told Mr. Tiddles she'd had a great time too, and added, "I've decided I'm coming back here tomorrow." Mr. Tiddles said that was good to know. He looked at the clock on the wall and said the kittens could play outside for a while. The kittens cheered and lined up at the door. Nutmeg asked Casey if he would show her around the playground. "Of course," he said with a big smile on his face. He looked at the blanket in his arms and told Nutmeg he was going to leave it inside. Nutmeg watched Casey take the blanket over to Mr. Tiddles and give it to him. The teacher held the blanket as if it were the most valuable blanket in the world. Casey skipped back to Nutmeg and the two friends went outside. They played with skipping ropes and hula hoops first, and then joined in with the other kittens and made up games that everyone could play. Some of the kittens began to yawn, and it made Nutmeg yawn too. She told Casey she normally had a nap at this time, but didn't know if she was allowed to do that at kindergarten. Casey said there was nap time too at kindergarten, and Mr. Tiddles would be ringing a bell soon to collect the kittens for their naps. A few seconds later, Mr. Tiddles rang a bell, and the kittens formed a line. Casey took Nutmeg's paw, and they went to the end of the line together. Mr. Tiddles led the kittens inside. Nutmeg was surprised to see that the classroom had changed. The curtains were now closed, and cosy rugs had been laid out on the floor. Nutmeg whispered to Casey, "What's happened? Where have all the toys gone?" "To the back of the room," Casey replied. "It's only whilst we have our nap, and then we can play again." Milo, Mog, and Donna were already sitting on the rugs. Donna waved to Casey and Nutmeg and said there were some empty rugs at her side. Nutmeg and Casey padded over and sat next to their friends. Having so many new friends made Nutmeg feel all warm and happy inside. Mr. Tiddles sat on his chair at the front of the room and asked the kittens to lie down on the rugs and take some deep breaths. The kittens did so. In a low, hushed voice, Mr. Tiddles continued talking and led the kittens in some relaxing breathing exercises. Nutmeg felt herself drifting into a peaceful nap. She was woken up a short while later by the light tinkle of a bell. The other kittens woke up too and had a good stretch. The curtains were opened and sunshine flowed into the classroom. Mr. Tiddles said it was time for the stretching song and asked Donna if she'd like to stand at the front of the class and show everyone what to do. Donna was on her feet in a flash, and she twirled and whirled her way to the front of the class. The rest of the kittens stood up and looked at Donna. Feeling a little worried, Nutmeg told Casey she didn't know the stretching song. Casey said the song wasn't hard and she would soon learn the words and actions. He gave her a big smile and Nutmeg instantly felt better. Mr. Tiddles picked up a guitar and began to play a happy tune. Donna stood on her tiptoes and stretched her arms above her head. The kittens copied her movements, including Nutmeg. Everyone began to sing the stretching song. It was an easy song, and Nutmeg quickly learnt the words and was soon singing about swaying like the wind, reaching for the stars and bending her knees like a frog. It was a lot of fun. The class then sang another song, one about clapping paws, stamping feet, twitching whiskers, and swishing tails. It was a funny, silly song and made everyone laugh. When the song came to an end, Mr. Tiddles told the kittens they had time to play before their parents came to collect them. Nutmeg and her new friends headed towards the dressing-up corner. Milo and Mog put on elephant costumes and pretended to squirt water at each other through their trunks. Donna put on a ballet tutu and some glittery pumps. She held her arms out and twirled around on the spot. Casey and Nutmeg dressed up as tigers. They roamed around the classroom and pretended it was a jungle. Nutmeg couldn't stop laughing, and that made Casey laugh too. A short time later, Mr. Tiddles rang a bell and said it was almost home time. He asked the children to tidy the toys away and then sit on the carpet. The kittens quickly put everything away and sat in front of Mr. Tiddles. He smiled down at the kittens, opened a book which was resting on his knees, and started to tell them a story about a little koala who lived in a magical forest. Nutmeg smiled happily. It was one of her favourite stories, and Mum had read it to her hundreds of times. As she listened to the familiar story with her new friends at her side, Nutmeg felt so very, very happy. She liked Kitten Kindergarten a lot and was looking forward to coming back the next day. When story time was over, the kittens were collected by their parents and grandparents. Nutmeg waved goodbye to her new friends and said she would see them tomorrow. Her friends waved back. Nutmeg and her mum walked out of the classroom and along the hallway. Nutmeg noticed some new pictures on the wall and pointed them out to her mum. She said, "That's the picture I drew with Milo, Meg and Donna. And I drew those rainbow pictures with Casey. He's really funny and knows lots of fun games to play." The mother smiled at her and said, "It sounds like you've had a wonderful time today." Nutmeg said she'd had the best time ever. That evening, as Nutmeg settled down to sleep in her cosy bed, she thought about the fun time she'd had with her new friends. Thinking about them made her feel warm and happy inside, and ever so peaceful. Nutmeg drifted into a deep sleep with a happy smile on her little face. She dreamed about Kitten Kindergarten and the wonderful day she'd had.